So today I wanted to do a video about Voltairine de Cleyre. Who is Voltairine de Cleyre? She is one of my favorite women that I have studied in the past year. She's an amazing writer. She's a free thinker, a poet, an individualist, anarchist, although she didn't ever actually use that term, but she definitely talked about individualism, and she's a really cool person and very, very smart. She was born November 17th, 1866, in Leslie, Michigan. Her father named her after the freethinker Voltaire. She was sent to a convent. She didn't like it there. She hated it there, and she ran away 2 different times. The first time she ended up getting sent back to the convent. The second time she didn't come back. It's believed that because of her days in the convent, that really led to her extreme hatred for authoritarianism. She never went to college. She was self-educated. She also taught. She taught English, music, penmanship. She became an anarchist after the Haymarket bombing in 1887. This was actually a really pivotal moment in history for a lot of people. When this originally happened, Voltairine was for the execution. She said that they should be hanged, and for the rest of her life she felt really bad about saying that, because she saw the injustice of the judicial system through that process. These people, if you don't know anything about it, there's a strike going on, and they had the police and then the people on one side, and somebody from the crowd threw a bomb. They don't know who it was, but it killed one police officer. And so they immediately after that, they went and searched through people's homes, and they were looking for radicals. They decided to pin it on, I think it was 8 anarchists. Not all of them were hanged, but I think 2 of them were hanged. One of them ran away so he wouldn't have to do this. One of them killed himself, and then another one got sentenced to a certain amount of years in prison or something like this. But all of the evidence against them was speculation. There wasn't any hard evidence that connected the anarchists, the radicals, to the bombing. And so Voltairine saw the corruption through that process. And I think that really turned her on to anarchism. She wrote for a variety of atheist periodicals and various journals. In 1889, she moved to Philadelphia, where she taught and she spoke until she died in 1912. She was only 45 when she died, not very old. She also had a son that she gave birth to in 1890. She didn't raise her son. In today's terms, she was an anarcho-feminist. Driven by her disgust for the church's goal to rule the woman's mind and the state's desire to control the woman's body, she spoke often and loudly about women's rights. So she saw that there were these 2 entities trying to control the woman's mind and the woman's body. And it was the church's goal to control the woman's mind, to get her to do as they wanted, at what they wished for. It was the state's goal to control the woman's body. What is she allowed to do with her body? And to a certain extent, that is still the case. She didn't support the idea of the government giving the woman or anybody rights. Women's suffrage, she didn't support that. She wasn't for that. She saw this as making women equal slaves rather than making them more free. She saw it as, okay, so now we both can vote for masters. We're both slaves to the system equally now. She also believed rights are a division of powers, and only the ruling class have rights. We must pave the way to equality through individual liberation. So what she believes is that the people that are in power They're the ones that give themselves rights. They are the ruling class. Everyone else who is not in power doesn't have rights. They have things that are given to them. You know, you're given the right to vote. You are given the right to sign up for the military. We are given these rights when really true freedom is through the individual liberation, and it's not going to be a right that someone gives you. It's going to be something that you already have. Another thing that Voltairine was really about, obviously, was anti-authority. So like I said before, during her convent days, she was really controlled what she could wear, what she could do, and so that kind of led to an extreme hatred for any kind of authority. She saw religion as an extension of man's attempt to rule and control women. The church gave rights to men, not to women. During this time, there was legalized rape. If you were married, you had to have sex with your husband, and you wouldn't be able to say that he raped you if he did rape you. So she kind of saw the church as permitting sexual slavery. Women were considered inferior to men, and she saw this as a major flaw in religion. She believed the power was within all of us and that we did not need a ruler, whether it be a king, president, or priest, to grant us this. She was also against the legal and penal systems. She was shot 3 times by a former student. He said that he was in love with her and she broke his heart or something like this. And so he went and shot her. She didn't die, but she had remains of the bullet in her body for the rest of her life. That probably contributed to the pain and the deterioration of her body as she got older. She never wanted to participate in the trials. She didn't think that the justice system was going to help this person. She saw that he needed help, and by putting him in jail or putting him through all this other stuff, it wasn't going to heal him. Really what he needed was a healing inside, because when people react that way, whether it's to that degree or even lesser degrees, you know, when people just respond in a negative way towards you, it's really because of a pain that they feel inside of themselves. It's not necessarily to do with you. It's because of pain that we carry inside of ourselves. And so if we want to achieve true liberation, we have to free ourselves from that pain. She believed that individuals who did harm to others were suffering and they needed help in a way that the penitentiary does not supply. Striking with conscience against someone without conscience will not heal the root of the problem. It will only pervert the conscience. She believed that the system created criminals by limiting the people's power to supply food and create income for themselves. So because we don't really have a free market and we don't really have a way for people to support themselves and be creative and figure out all different ways that they could support their family and get their own food and stuff like this, because the system limits that, it creates criminals because people are trying to feed themselves. Now, this isn't always the case for everyone. Obviously, there are just mean people out there. But she believed that this was a very vicious cycle, so she didn't participate in the trials at all. She actually sent a letter of appeal to the judge for him because she didn't want to press any charges, she didn't want to be involved in the trials, and she didn't want him to go to jail, even though he shot her. I mean, to me, that takes a very strong person to not press charges against somebody who tried to kill you. Let us have done with this savage idea of punishment, which is without wisdom. Let us work for the freedom of man from the oppression which makes criminals and for the enlightened treatment of the sick. So she wanted to heal people. Another thing that she talked a lot about was direct action. Not violent action, though, not propaganda of the deed. So that is a form of direct action, but that is violent. And Voltairine didn't call for violence. Anyone who asserts their right to do something without looking to the government or law enforcement to assist them is a direct actionist. Direct action includes strikes, sit-ins, boycotts, blockades, intervention. For example, Sea Shepherd, they are direct actionists. They are out there directly fighting people who are harming marine life out there. Non-taxpayers, those are another form of direct actionists. What I say is that the real non-resistance can believe in direct action only, never in political action, for the basis of all political action is coercion. Even when the state does good things, it finally rests on a club, a gun, or a prison for its power to carry them through. That is from one of my favorite essays by Voltairine de Cleyre, Direct Action, and you should definitely read that one, and also Dominant Idea. But for de Cleyre, the origin of social liberation had to be a personal transformation for her. Ultimately, the liberation of a people had to proceed through a liberation of each person, and the primordial scene of enslavement and freedom was within the human self. Wow. She's so cool. And, you know, just talking about individual liberation is so powerful, because being someone in this movement, whatever position you take, we're trying to change something, right? We're trying to change the current system. Regardless of what exactly you're trying to change it to, we have a vision of this world where peace could be a possibility, where, you know, people take care of the planet, where, you know, we have this idea, this vision that is, as John Lennon called it, you know, it was the dreamers, and we are the dreamers, but it doesn't mean that it can't be real. The only reason it can't be real right now is because there's so much healing that has to take place. This liberation, liberating the globe, that can't happen if we aren't liberated within ourselves. We have to free our minds. We have to free our souls, our spirits, from these chains, from the battles that we hold within ourselves, from the pain that causes us to react in anger and to react negatively to the world around us. We have to find ways to heal that pain and to grow from it, liberating our emotional, spiritual selves and our mental selves. We can't be free in this world until we do that, and all of us have to do it. So it's a very tedious thing, and it's going to take a long time. But we just gotta keep continuing the fight for freedom on all levels, outside and inside. But Voltairine really had that mindset of liberating the individual and realizing that true liberation will only come when we are free within ourselves. There's so much more on Voltairine de Cleyre that I didn't include in this very short thing. So if you want to learn more about her, I'll link a whole bunch of stuff. There are tons of essays that she's written. There are books that you can download for free on the internet that other people have written about her. There's so much information about her. There's so much information available about her. So if you liked all of this information, please go and do some of your own research. Figure out who she was. Figure out what she believed in. And remember that liberation, freedom, is going to come from us first, individually. And so let's make sure we do our work.